Good afternoon, evening, noon or night, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to Estebene and Valkenburg's F1 2015 co-op season. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum. And we're off to the hills are alive with the sound of Austria. And how are you, Mr. Estebene?
Excellent, thank you. Thank you for that nice rendition there of that classic Julie Andrews number. That was a strong opener, I feel.
It's all downhill from here.
It's all downhill from here. Well, we had a bit of an adventure last time out, so hopefully this one's a little bit more stable.
Yeah, I completely agree. If we do run into technical issues, at least we've got plenty to talk about for the opening. And do you know what? Even though the F1 season is starting later than normal, it still feels like it's come around quite quickly.
Yeah, it's a bizarre feeling for me because, like, as soon as the season ends, I want to see what next year looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, it just hasn't seemed to have dragged quite so much.
No, I think, especially because there's quite a few intriguing stories and because rules are stable and the field looks a little bit closer. I think I'd got a little bit into F1 fatigue at the end of the year, so I feel like a fresh breath of air is coming in, maybe.
It does look a lot closer going into the season, actually, and I think that makes it very exciting. I'm super looking forward to next weekend already. Actually, I particularly because Channel 4 have now got the rights, and
yeah,
it's one of those things where when I heard about it, I thought that is either going to be rubbish or it's going to be the best thing to happen to F1 for a while, because the BBC's coverage has always been excellent.
Yeah.
But
people like to pan it, but actually they did throw quite a lot at it, didn't they?
They did, especially when they first took over the deal, before they started splitting it with Sky.
Yeah.
They did put a lot of effort behind it, and who doesn't love a bit of Eddie Jordan?
Oh, I like a bit of Eddie Jordan. I don't like lots. He seems to be popping up everywhere, though. And I was really surprised. I mean, Channel 4 have taken the same view as to what BBC have done with Top Gear, by just throwing all of the presenters at the world at the coverage. But at least they've done it in kind of like a weird rotating way. Although...
I love that they've got Mark Webber.
Yeah. Someone that says it how it is, mate.
Bonza.
Yeah, Bonza.
That's how I would describe that decision. Bonza. He didn't want to commit for a full season, though, and I think that's part of the reason they're rotating it.
Ah, okay, I didn't realise that. Interesting. I saw a nicely airbrushed Susie Wolf in there as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what she can add personally, but I like the fact that I do quite like Lee McKenzie. I think she's worthwhile keeping around. I'm slightly annoyed that Susie Perry didn't go over or wasn't taken over, because I love the fact that she's a little bit you're never quite sure where the next mistake's going to happen. Oh, I've got lots of weird lag.
Yeah, it just happened for me as well, but I think we're back in sync now.
So yeah, I don't know who the main anchorman is, though. I've never
Isn't
heard.
Isn't it
DC? Yeah, but with some other guy as well. So Ben Edwards and David Coulthard are doing a commentary, but like the stuff beforehand, all the anchor stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. I thought that was DC as well, actually, but I don't know who's responsible for all the build-up.
It's some man that everyone went, oh no. So clearly he's got a track record somehow. Roberto Merry, no.
No, Roberto, no.
Oh, that's first front wing has been removed.
By Merry?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Hello, mate.
Hello. Oh, at least you got some screen time.
I don't want to jinx myself, but the car feels quite good.
It does, actually.
But it's on low fuel.
Yeah. I've detested that this McLaren on heavy fuel is the worst car by far.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a completely fair representation. Just like the sound isn't, because it doesn't sound like a canal barge. Like it did in real life.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone the other day, and they said it didn't sound like a canal barge. And I was, go back and watch the first few rounds of the season, like all the engine failures that Button had. I don't know what happened there. It's like my controller disconnected.
Oh no, not again.
But it's okay. It wasn't a timed lap, so we'll let
Okay.
it slide. And when he was sort of pootling back to the pits, you would get a capture from it, and it's just, and it just sounded like a genuine canal barge engine. And I don't know where inside the engine was capable of making such a horrific noise, but it happened. Although apparently this year's engine sounds much, much better, and word on the
Louder as
street
well.
is they're running the engine much closer to its potential. I've run wide at that corner now every time I've come to it. My brakes feel wrong. The car handles okay, but it feels wrong.
Just like every night out at a taco restaurant.
Yes. All these years and I haven't built up a resistance. I also nearly span it. The car doesn't seem to be holding in the corners. You know when you just start to run out wide, regardless of whether that was your intention or not.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, it just was floaty and shitty. But that's the McLaren for you, and maybe they might be a little bit better out on track for 2016, despite their predictions. Oh, that's why they wouldn't let me out.
Yeah, I was coming back in. I think I should. There's a lot of gravel on these tyres, and I don't think that was quite what they were invented for. So, I'm just gonna. I treated that as a spotter lap.
Okay.
And I will go out again momentarily. I'm not following your lead on this because I know you've gone one up and you found yourself quite competitive.
Yes.
I have stolen a random setup from some geezer. You have to say geezer when you've nicked it, and he put it up on f1carsetup.co.uk.
Yes.
Wow, I've put 8% wear on my tyres, so yeah. There'll be pit stops aplenty, I think, this afternoon.
Yeah, well, it seems we're doing 50% races, obviously, for people that are watching. And when I was trying to do a quick pre-practice, because I'm so R-factor 2'd at the moment that I have to do a few laps before we do this, just to kind of remember how shit this McLaren drives. But also just like general game practices and not going off like I've just done there. Cue carnage. This is like, yeah, you've got to stop 3 times. You can stop twice if you want, but it's 10 seconds slower. And I was like, must we really? But I think we will.
Well, it's 10 seconds slower if you're a... Wow, I just shifted my brake bias and it did me no favours at all.
Oh, okay.
The car doesn't seem to stop. Maybe I don't know, but the car just doesn't seem to want to stop.
Also, if you go onto f1carsetup.com, just remember that you're downloading a setup that is for race trim and not for hot lapping, because otherwise the tyre wear is even worse.
Oh god, yeah, I might have done that. I might have done that. I've never seen the point of doing that, actually.
What's that?
Sharing time trial setups, because the majority of players, I would venture to say, are not hot lappers. They're buying the game because they like F1 and they want to play through the season.
Yes.
Which means, they want tyres that last the race distance.
This is true. Someone's got rid of the 100-metre board at turn 3 and I keep forgetting.
Was it you?
No. I think
for once, it wasn't me.
It wasn't me either. Wow. We were competent at a corner.
Are you having trouble with turn 2 at all?
On acceleration.
Yeah.
It's like the car wants to buck out.
It sure does. Anyway, since we're talking about how rubbish this McLaren is,
Yeah.
And before we get into our 2016 predictions, which are always good value,
Yeah.
I suppose we should have a 2016 us projection, because we need to have that discussion about if we're going to be the arseholes, or
I think we have to.
if we're going to be Tossa Rosso, or we've still never done Force India.
No, we
I
haven't.
realised, though, for most of our virtual pretend career, we've been Renault powered,
Have we?
statistically speaking.
Oh, I did not know that.
Because, we always go for the crap teams with the crap engine. I'm tucked in just behind you, and we are not competitive at all.
No, that's fine. I'm competitive on long distances, not on quali. There seems to be a real disparity between people's quali pace and race pace on this circuit with the AI. So don't panic.
Don't panic, Mr. Mannering.
No, and I'm sliding like a bitch everywhere.
Okay, so I guess before we do like a proper rundown of where we think people stand going into the season, is there any team or driver? Actually, we'll do both, team and driver, who has impressed you particularly over the testing sessions, like coming into the season? Is there something you've seen that you think, yeah, they've got the potential to deliver big here, bigger than perhaps people give them credit for?
Pascal Wehrlein in the manor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's a front wing. And that's purely because that car is now within touching distance of everyone else. So I think if anyone's going to do it, it will be him. So that will be interesting as a story that plays out. Team-wise, I want to say Force India, I think, will punch above their weight and get them back to where we remember Jordan being in the late 90s. They have the potential for doing so. And I reckon they are my extreme outsiders for third in the Constructors.
Do you know, that should be a controversial opinion, but I could actually get behind that. I heard an interview with Pat Simmons the other day, and he's someone who traditionally never talks performance.
Yeah.
He's always plays his cards very close to his chest, but he was, I think it's fair to say, confident that Williams were coming into the season as a solid third-place team. I don't know if it's a bluff or if he's genuinely that confident, but I could see them really being under threat this season, and if anyone's going to be delivering that threat, I think it would be Force India.
Yeah, especially because I find it really difficult to be able to place where... I don't know what... okay, maybe it was Ricciardo or Kvyat that fucked up the first lap, or Massa, because those are three behind Will Stevens at the moment.
Oh, there's front wing all over the track.
That might be me.
Is that number 3 now, Simon?
Number 2. Number 2. I can't place Red Bull, and I found it very difficult to place Williams because they've been really, really underplayed again so far in testing, and I don't know if they've done that on purpose or if they've are genuinely just keeping things close to their chest because they're working on stuff. But that's the beauty of testing, isn't it? How about yourself? 8th position on the grid.
Yeah, look at that, eh? That was a clean lap from me. We'll never see the likes of that again.
You.
Well, first of all, I kind of second you on Force India, but the team that actually has impressed me most has been Toro Rosso. They got the second most laps after Mercedes with no reliability problems, given that they didn't know what engine they'd be using until a few weeks before the test.
Yeah.
They've built a brand new gearbox this season that Franz Tost has said is so tightly packaged you can't see the wiring and the connecting components coming in and out of it because the bodywork's so tight to it.
Nice.
And he was fearful that if there was an error, it'd be very, very difficult to visually diagnose it without dismantling the rear of the car.
Ooh.
So good news that it's working flawlessly so far. I think the drivers are obviously the most promising young drivers F1 has seen for considerable time.
Yeah.
And I'm totally of the opinion that for the first maybe quarter of the season at least, they are going to be sticking it to the bigger teams, and they're probably going to be ahead of Red Bull initially.
Yeah, that'd be juicy. I like it when that happens. I know you shouldn't always go for the underdog, but fuck it, underdog.
To be honest, I've grown quite fond of Toro Rosso down the years.
Mm-hmm.
When they came into the sport, I didn't really understand what they were for.
Yeah.
But now it's starting to make sense to me. I still think it's a bit crap that it's such a dog-eat-dog environment within the team, and they don't really they abandon very viable talent if it doesn't immediately pay off.
Yes.
But they're a great little team, and I'm a fan. I would consider myself a fan. I've spent money on Toro Rosso merchandise. I have no shame in admitting that.
I remember your merchandise wall of fame and shame.
Yeah, I need to do a new one for this season.
Yeah.
Although, the award last year went to Sauber because they went from most expensive to among the cheapest, which they had to do, really. There was no sponsors on it.
No, exactly. They're suspiciously less this year. Did you hear about the news? They've just paid them now, but no one got paid February's salary.
Yes, that's true. Well, I believe they got paid, but they didn't get paid in full.
Oh, okay. So it makes you wonder if Sauber going to be this year's Lotus.
I could see it, although I also read on the download that they are in final stages of negotiation for a big money title sponsorship deal.
Ooh.
And I just hope to God they get it. I don't care if that sponsorship deal is for Dildo King, and we have to have black and yellow Dildo King Sauber F1 cars. I don't care. That team has to survive. It has to survive.
Yeah.
I didn't give to the crowdfunder for Caterham, but I would give to a crowdfunder for Sauber. That's how much I think that sport, that team means to F1.
Yes.
They're a team that does things their own way, and have done for the length of their time in F1, and they don't deserve to be struggling the way that they have been of late. I've got a lot of love for Sauber.
Yeah. I don't necessarily have a lot of love for Manisha Kaltenborn, but Sauber as a whole, yes.
I've got to think that she's got to be on her way towards an exit at some point. I'm surprised, actually, she's lasted as long as she has.
Yeah.
And it's not because, at first I felt she ran the team very competently. I thought she was pretty diligent with the purse strings.
Yeah.
But since, I think the last 12 to 18 months, I think it's just completely unraveled for her. And I think she's not dealt with it particularly well. And she's become I consider her like a boring Paul Stoddart. She's like an opinionated talking head, but got nothing to really bring to the conversation. Whereas at least when Stoddart was ranting and raving, he had a very, very valid position. Yes. And, he was paying his suppliers and his staff.
Yeah, she's become a bit more of a jokey thing. Oh!
What's happened to you?
I'm fifth!
No.
Oh, then I'm straight into barriers, but I'm fifth!
This lap has to be perfect, Ben, and I don't think it's going to be.
Your front wing is damaged. Performance will be affected.
It's okay, I don't care if my performance is affected. I've done my
Oh, that was nice and clean. Nah, still 11th. See if this lap can do it, perchance. I doubt it. Braked far too early in that corner and washed too much speed off. So yeah, I could actually see them doing really, really well. But we were talking about what is Red Bull's sort of 2 to 5 year plan with this tag deal,
Yeah.
I dug a little bit deeper into that because I thought it was that they were getting their own development tokens and that they would be developing the car, and that is true. But I forgot that they had that deal with Ilmor, and that Ilmor are actually helping them develop the engine.
Ah.
I'm 4.5 tenths down on myself, so this isn't going to be an improvement.
No. Banzai!
But why not put some more wear on the tyres? Ride those curbs.
We will be outside the top 10, so you can change. Unless you improve.
No.
Ah.
Well, congrats to you, a 5th. That's quite impressive.
It is, and you an 11th for McLaren. That's impressive too.
You were 8 tenths faster on that lap. I'll be honest, when I put it 8th, I thought I had the measure of you.
So did I.
Because it's been a much more Estebene favouring fight in qualifying this season compared to last season. I don't think I out-qualified you once last season.
No, whereas you've pretty much out-qualified me almost every race so far. So, but clearly something went on somewhere, because Rosberg's 15th and Kvyat's last. And Bottas is 16th as well, so some people fucked up.
Speaking of that kind of that kind of issue, I find myself thinking that actually the back of the grid is harder to predict than the front of the grid this season.
Yes, this is true. And all the more so because I'm genuinely confused as to how the new qualifying format will actually help or hinder anyone.
I think it will ruin the coverage.
Yeah, that's true. Because especially, I was just reading just before this that for Q1, the first driver gets eliminated after 7 minutes. So everyone will bundle out, just do one lap. And surely, if you've done a really good time, you just sit in the pits for the rest of the session. That's that.
I thought you couldn't go back into the pits. I thought the rule was everyone had to be out all the time.
Oh, I must have missed that somewhere along the line.
That's why it's ruined, because everyone goes out, so no one can get a clean lap. Everyone's blocking each other.
Great.
And you go round and round and round and round and round until you're eliminated. Then you come into the pits on that lap.
That's
until
awful.
There's 10 standing, and then those guys come in, change tyres, and go out again.
No, that reminds me of that horrible fuel-saving Q3 that they'd done originally at 2006 before they got rid of that.
Yeah, exactly. And do you know, it's going to be an hour of watching Hamilton and Rosberg, because they're just going to follow the fastest cars all the time.
Yeah, and a quick shot to whoever's been eliminated, and then probably David Croft going, now he's getting interested, and then that'll be it.
This is interesting. It's 7 seconds slower, but I can start on primes and go prime, option, prime.
Okay. I'll start with mine.
So that saves me a pit stop.
You always love a contra strategy.
I do. I'm a sucker for a contra strategy, but then this is 3 stints on the faster tyre. So, yeah, I'm gonna be conservative.
Thinking about front wings, there's more chance to change one if you've got more pit stops you need to have.
That is true. That is true. So, I find myself thinking that the back of the grid is much harder to call than the front, because some people, I heard a BBC podcast the other day, and they were saying, it's still going to be Manor at the back, and I don't see it. Not with Wehrlein and the Mercedes power unit. I just don't see it.
Ooh, massive smash behind. Oh, but you've popped out the top of it.
Yeah, although I had a nasty collision with Hulkenberg, who's now trying to ram me off the road.
Nice.
Very nearly did a good job of it as well. He's just driving into me. It's bastards.
Angry German. Give me back my passport.
So yeah, I stand by it. I don't see maybe Rio will be a consistent back marker, but I don't see the team as a whole being a consistent. Oh, you sod!
Is that you?
Yeah, of course it was.
Oh no! I don't see you last though on the map.
Oh no, I'm not last. I've come out ahead of Fiat,
Good man.
but I'm going backwards. It seems.
Ooh.
I'm gonna try and focus now and getting some clean laps in.
Plus, with the Manor colour scheme, I just like to see a lot of that on my TV screens, please.
Yeah, I think the car looks fantastic. I think the British-inspired design works really well. I think it's good that they've picked up more. Sorry, I just performed an illegal overtake on Maldonado, apparently.
Let's have a 5-second pause of no more Pastor. Is that you off again?
Yeah. They just leave you no space to make an overtaking maneuver, and then you go through, and they just knock you into the gravel trap. But my wing remains intact.
Yay! Indestructible wing!
And I'm not suffering, as I have in the past, from weird buggy errors that cause me to...
No, that was a weird one last race, wasn't it? Actually, well, talking of overtakes then, Mr. Overtake for 2015 was a certain Verstappen, which I know everyone practically ejaculated all over, so you're all rapists and you're all probably paedophiles because he's barely legal. But do you think that second year round he will produce the goods, and will people still be salivating over him?
If the car's as good as I think it is, then yes. Yes, I do, actually. I think he's going to do really, really well. The BBC are already jizzing up the walls about him. On the same podcast I was talking about before, they had an interview with Jolyon Palmer's dad, and spent the entire interview talking about Max Verstappen.
Oh no!
I urge you to go and listen to it, please. It's the Radio 5 Live podcast. Anyone watching this, go and listen to that podcast. It's in the second half. They talk to Jonathan Palmer, and it's really awkward because he's there to talk about his son, and they're just asking him about how important it is to have a young Dutch driver in Formula One. It's amazing.
Jalen's kind of arrived almost inconspicuously, hasn't he? So...
Yeah, I mean, it's good. Maybe that takes the pressure off that everyone's sort of... Because also, like, K-Mags, I think, is a good cloak for him, because everyone's going to be wanting to find out, was bringing K-Mags back the right thing to do? It was, by the way. But it strikes me that he's going to be almost not necessarily ignored, but I think K-Mags is going to take a lot of the attention.
Yeah, no, I agree.
What's happened?
I was Hulkenberged.
Oh, he got me as well, the swine.
To be fair, that was more my fault than his, that one. But, like,
my controller did that thing again, where it's like it's disconnected and won't turn.
No. Contra strategy.
Yeah. It just turned into the wall by itself. It seems whenever we're close to each other on track, we get some kind of desync issue.
Yeah.
That unplugs my controller.
Bizarre.
I see you took Hulkenberg out though, which is good.
Good. I will not go quietly into the night.
I think I'm going to finish last now though, because that was a 15-second pit stop.
Oh, I've got no tyres either.
Right, I'm going on primes on my next stop. That much is clear.
And talking of tyres, what do you make of this wider tyre opportunities for 2016?
I think the ultra softs are a bad call.
Okay.
I think drivers whinge as it is about high degradation tyres. I don't see why bringing in a tyre that degrades even worse makes any sense. I mean, yeah, it allows them to. I suppose it is interesting in the sense that you put those on and you're probably going to be the fastest man on track if you're the only one running them.
Yeah.
But if you can only be the fastest man on track for 5 laps, then what does it gain you, really? F1's always been a marathon rather than a sprint. You know, everyone always talks about speed, but the key to F1 has actually always been consistency.
Mm-hmm.
That the car and the tyre behave the same lap after lap, and that's why high deg caught so many people out. Because they were used to having tyres that, yeah, they did go off, but they behaved fairly consistently throughout their life. Whereas HD tyres have this, you know, the famous cliff, where they just fall off. They just fall off a cliff and they become completely useless.
Yeah.
And I don't think making a tyre that's worse at that is going to do much for the drivers. It might spice the show up a little bit, but yeah, with qualifying being ruined the way it has. And what annoys me about that is it smacks to me of they've come together to talk about the rules. They couldn't agree on fixing anything that is fundamentally broken, but they somehow managed to agree to break the only thing no one was complaining about.
Yes.
I don't think changing qualifying was on the top 50 issues for most F1 fans.
Not at all.
Like, I mean, I personally like to go back to the hour sessions, 12 laps.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it helped the smaller teams out. You know, you'd have that start of the session with someone like Patrick Freisacher or, you know, Mark Janae, you know, one of the back markers putting in some laps to clean up the track, and it gave the team more TV airtime than they get now. And I have to credit the BBC, because the BBC did revolutionise F1 coverage from that sense, because when they had it in the early 90s and when ITV took over, there was that long stint of, you know, you'd be watching, say, an Arrows lapping, and you'd be quite into it, watching, you know, Jos the Boss work his magic, and then it just cut to Jacques Villeneuve in the pits putting his helmet on.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, oh, and Jacques Villeneuve's coming out. He's like, yeah, but he's not out, is he? He's not out. He's sat in a car putting his helmet on. That is not riveting sports television.
No.
And it was a really annoying habit all through the 90s and early 2000s that drove me bonkers. And the BBC did a really good job of sort of covering the smaller teams.
Yes.
I think after the first 2 races, they got very bad at covering Virgin, Team Lotus, and HRT. Yeah. But you saw plenty of, you know, the Saubers of the world and the Force Indias.
Yeah.
And if anything, I think they did an excellent job last year. I know it pissed off Mercedes that they got very little TV time, but that's their own fault.
Yeah, stop being so busy in a class of your own.
I would be inclined to say that winning multiple world championships is advertising enough for you.
Yes, exactly.
But it's just not good television to watch. You know, we learned that in the Vettel era. It's not good television to watch Sebastian Vettel lapping 5 seconds faster than the guy in second at Singapore. It just there's no benefit to it. I think the hardest team to read going into this, though, is it has to be Haas.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm torn between thinking, well, there's no reason they should be last with, you know, Grosjean behind the wheel and the fact they've barely built anything. Oh God, again, the controls.
Oh.
I just drove straight off into a barrier. That's really irritating. Yeah, there's on paper no reason why they should be last, but then I remember when Sauber were basically running a customer Ferrari.
Yeah.
and had no idea what they were doing with it, and went backwards year on year.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And their most recent, their worst season ever, they had Ferrari engines and bits of their car, I think, in the back as well, 2014, and that was a bloody horrible year.
So I don't know that they're actually going to come out of the gate being especially competitive, but at the same time, it's so hard to call the back of the grid. I think we're going to spend most of this episode talking about the back of the grid, because between Sauber and McLaren and Renault and Haas and Manor, it's very hard to put a cigarette paper between them for various reasons.
Yeah.
Renault had to basically walk into the Lotus factory and find the napkin that some engineer has absent-mindedly doodled the car design onto, and then try and make it in little to no time.
Bring back the walrus.
And they had to, Manor have developed something of a brain trust that I think is going to deliver results. Plus, they've got Pascal Wehrlein, who is a very, very impressive driver, and he was incredibly impressive during testing.
Mm-hmm.
And the Mercedes power unit is undoubtedly worth seconds a lap, over a second a lap easily, against the 2014 Ferrari units they were using.
Yeah.
So, you've got to say that, they were 3 seconds off the back of whoever. I forget who they were off the back of at that point, but
Probably.
They were 3 seconds off the pace, let's say that.
Yeah.
If changing engine gains a second and a half, which I think is perfectly viable,
Yeah.
I don't see why Pascal Wehrlein and a new, more aerodynamically aggressive chassis wouldn't close the rest of that gap.
No, I agree. And you touching on Lotus, Renault, for 2016, I find it incredibly difficult to also place exactly where they're going to be. They've got two. K-Mags, I completely agree, should be back in F1. Should never have really been left. But McLaren had I want all the world champions. And I think we're in that era now where there isn't a driver, I don't think, that is so embarrassingly out of their depth they should never have been there in the first place. It's picking who's got the budget but is also competent as well. And it's a difficult era at the moment, I think, to place drivers, especially when the grid is smaller.
I would, at the risk of sounding maniacal, I would go so far as to say that this is probably the best grid we've had for a good few years now, in terms of, aside from Rio and arguably Marcus Ericsson, although I felt he acquitted himself quite well at the start of last season.
Yeah, he didn't disgrace himself.
I think they're probably the only two drivers that I would realistically consider getting rid of. Oh, and Gutierrez, who I think is overrated.
Yes.
But I mean, still, I think Gutierrez, if the grid was big enough, is good enough for F1. But with a grid the size that it is now, I would swap him for Verne, I think.
Yeah. Or with American team, Rossi, I'd stuck in there.
The jury's out for me on Rossi. I honestly found it hard to get the measure of him at his stint at Manor last season, and I don't know really what I think of his skills.
I think my problem with Rossi is that he came second to Stoffel Van Dorn, and I would put Van Dorn in the car over Rossi if I was given the opportunity. Van Dorn should be in F1. The fact that he's been sent off to Formula Mi Bomb or Super Formula, I can't remember which one it is. Enter slightly racist Japanese screaming. He should if he's not in F1 in 2017, something is seriously wrong with the process of stuff. But
I
that's
think
not them.
him signing his name to that McLaren contract was the worst thing he's ever done.
Yeah.
Because I believe he was in the running to be a Ferrari development driver, and he picked McLaren over them.
Oh dear.
I believe that's the case. Maybe he didn't get an offer, and maybe McLaren just moved first or something. But they have done literally nothing to support his career
No.
in any meaningful sense. You know, when they were the premium technical partner of Marussia, they did nothing to get him in that car. When they were supporting Force India, they did nothing to get him in that car. I think they've overlooked him to a massive extent, and if he doesn't get Button's seat or Alonso's seat when whichever goes,
Mm-hmm.
I would be horrified. Speaking of the two old men of Formula One,
Yeah.
thanks for that, Massa. I pulled over to let you through, and you just turn into me. Why not?
What?
Yeah, I pulled over to the side of the corner to let him through, and he followed me and just rammed me.
Nice. I'm so cutting by going wide at turn 1. I don't even care anymore.
What I'm seeing here is the lack of practice coming through. I think I really have to practice for these things so I don't continually embarrass myself. To be fair though, we're one notch down from the hardest difficulty, and we qualified respectably.
Yeah,
So-
1 lap pace is good.
Yeah, the 1 lap pace is all right.
I think I don't want to pit in now. These tyres still feel fine.
My primes are coming to the end of their lifespan.
I'm going to go around again.
So yeah, and then Sauber, it's hard to call because they say they've taken a step forward with their car, and I can't think of a reason to doubt them. But at the same time,
I can't see a reason as to where they would take a step forward from their car either. That's the thing.
yeah. And I have this horrible feeling that we might end up with Sauber being the backmarkers.
Yeah.
I think if I had to put money on someone being like, obviously, Rio will be dead last. But if we're talking like as a team, I think Sauber are probably. I think Sauber are the ones that are at biggest risk of ending up propping up the timesheets, and that makes me sad. Renault I put in the same group as Red Bull in that I think they'll start weakly and continually move forward through the season, and that still helps Red Bull, right? Because they will still eventually get upgrades to the base unit, and then Ilmor, the original Ilmor are now Mercedes high-performance powertrains, which are the dominant engine supplier in F1.
Yeah.
So I don't think Ilmor being involved in the Tag Heuer engine program is anything to sniff at all.
No. They've done a really, really good job when they were back doing Sauber in the 90s and all of that stuff. So, yeah.
So I could see the grid in the first flyaway races and the grid after round 5 onwards being markedly different, because it's so close anyway that it wouldn't take too big a breakthrough to really shift yourself up 3 or 4 places.
No, not at all. I think that's where the likes of Red Bull that continuously push for development, you've got different like Haas will constantly improve because they'll get knowledge of how to run a team in a real race weekend, and I suppose as well you've got Renault that will improve as they kind of gel and find their way, although I guess that would be slightly less because it's still effectively the same team. But if you've got different management in there, then absolutely it takes a while for things to gel together. And so those kind of teams are the teams that I can see moving up, whereas the people that have got a snatch from the beginning, the likes of your Toro Rossos and your Saubers, I
Williams.
think, yeah, Williams as well potentially. The only way is back, so they have to snap whilst the sun shines, I think.
Thanks, Verstappen.
Why?
Oh, Sainz, sorry.
I was going to say, I've got Verstappen.
I was catching you then, mate, but no dice. My rear tyres have completely gone off as well. I'm spinning on the exits of corners, so I'm going to have to come in this lap. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm totally with you. I don't know why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. It should be a very exciting prospect. Oh, and on a side note, I've changed my mind about the Red Bull livery. Now I've seen it photographed on track rather than in a controlled environment. It looks a lot better.
Ooh, okay. Less garish.
Well, I don't know. I think the TV cameras bring out the best in it, and maybe it was designed that way.
Okay.
But inside the pits, inside a building where it was photographed first, it looked a bit too street artist.
Yeah.
For me.
Bring me the
on the
graffiti.
TV cameras, it just looks very, very sharp.
Yeah.
Jeff's just ordered me to change my tyres.
Alright, I'm determined to get ahead of at least one manor by the end of this fucking race.
Yeah, so was I, but it's not going to happen.
See, I'm alright when I'm... At the beginning of a stint, I'm fine. I think I'm too heavy tyre wear, maybe. So, we've spent quite a bit of time talking about the back. Should we be boring and talk about the old who's going to win?
Yes, yeah, let's. I'll allow you to make the opening statement, the honourable member.
My honourable member states that Mercedes will be top still, although much, much closer. I think that in the long run, Mercedes will have it, whereas I think Ferrari may have it in a short one lap in the hands of Vettel only. I think Raikkonen will be suspiciously absent yet again and finally get fucking kicked. Thank you. And that will be the determining factor for Mercedes being constructors. For drivers, though, I would dearly love to see Rosberg stick one up on Hamilton.
Yeah, me too. And I could see him doing it. People are already writing him off, and I think that's desperately unfair.
And I think it will be entirely decided in the first 6 races. And if Rosberg gets strong out the gate, then it's his.
He has to get better at playing the mind games, doesn't he, really?
Yeah. Absolutely. He showed that. I think his weakness for me last year, I think it was last year, I might be starting to merge seasons together, was where he kept outbraking himself at Monza, and then when he threw it off the road at America last year.
Yeah.
Because those were his to throw away, and it was the pressure that took him off. And if he is in a pressure cooker environment, I think McLaren love Lewis more. Not McLaren, sorry. Mercedes love Lewis more, potentially. And they pander to him easier. And so they will back behind him because he demands all the love. Whereas Rosberg, I think, likes to go away and think about things and mull it over a bit too much privately. And could do with some love and support to make sure that they bring out the best in him.
Yeah, I think he needs a mentor. I think he does. I think he's a world championship level driver.
Yeah.
I'd still say I think Lewis is arguably the better driver, but
Yeah.
whether he's better 100% of the time is debatable. Maldonado's had a crash.
Excellent.
Lols.
Art imitates life.
um, but yeah, I mean, for me, Rosberg has to deliver out of the gate, like you say, in order to win the championship, and I think he needs to win the championship to keep his seat.
Yes.
And then the tantalising question becomes, that seat is vacant. Does it go to Rosberg or does it go to Wehrlein? Not Rosberg, Alonso.
Yeah.
But I'm digressing. I could see Vettel taking more than a few wins.
Yes.
But that will most likely come via infighting and later in the season. So like when Hamilton and Rosberg are racing wheel to wheel and something goes wrong, or they're slowing each other down by racing each other.
Yeah.
In the early rounds, and then later on, I actually could see Ferrari. If the base car is good, I could see them developing pretty strongly throughout the season. But I agree with you. I don't see Raikkonen turning up for some reason.
No, not at all.
And it makes no sense to me because they've both said openly they like the same kind of car.
Nah.
They have similar preferences in terms of car behavior and handling, and the team has now been this car is tailored for that driving style.
Yeah.
There's no argument now that he has to be delivering, and his seat is another one that I think is very hard to call who would get it, but someone's going to have to get it. I'd love it to be Ricciardo, so he turns up and then bitches Vettel again. That would be amazing.
That'd be a great twist of fate. Oh, Maldonado's behind me.
But of course, the favourite's supposedly Max Verstappen, although he's come out and said that he's very happy at Red Bull and has no intention to move just yet.
See, now I reckon. No, I reckon he would jump if Red Bull has a shocking 2016, because that is a family that will take the chances of whatever is thrown their way, and I think they would trample to get to the most competitive car as quickly as possible. Ooh, someone's just crashed. Oh no, it's not. It's lag, I think.
Oh, nice.
Oh, and a car's just appeared inside me.
Ooh. Who were misses?
Tasty. We weren't even near each other.
I agree. I think Max he's capable of being quite personable, but he's very, very cutthroat, I think.
Yeah, and that will be coming from a sporting family that have designed everything around you will be successful.
I think we'll see more of the petulant behaviour we saw last year.
Yeah.
I think it'll come at the expense of Sainz, who ideally hope stays in F1. But actually, I mean, maybe it wouldn't be so bad if Verstappen did jump ship and then Sainz moved into a Red Bull seat when one was vacated.
Yeah. Because the other big issue that we've got as a thing is both Daniels are absolutely competent. Why would Red Bull want to change them? Because they're going to be swapping out a very good driver for another very good driver. Their driver program yields them too much result, and they're spoilt for choice. And they're like, hello. So, and it's very difficult for a Red Bull driver to not be a Red Bull driver. I mean, Liuzzi went off to do bits and bobs, didn't he, at Force India and HRT. That didn't go very well.
No.
But it seems to be Red Bull or bust.
I think once you're in their clutches, I think Vettel obviously is the only exception. I think once you're in their clutches, it's very difficult to make a name of yourself outside of their clutches. And I imagine their contracts are fairly restrictive. I imagine someone like Max or Carlos couldn't leave without jumping through a lot of legal hoops.
Yeah.
Because if they fund your career for 15 years, from karting through till, like your late 20s, they're going to be very pissed off if by the time they get you to Formula One, you do a year at Toro Rosso and fuck off.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be. I'd be very freaking annoyed. So
I'm mega annoyed because I've just realised they've stuck on yet another pair of option tyres for me, so I'm going to have to make a fourth pit stop.
I've made 5 or 6 now, I think.
God. You win. And of course, the other one that might get the Ferrari seat would be Grosjean.
There's talk about that, but I could see him going back to Renault.
Yeah.
And I stand by my statement that I see Renault being a very serious contender for the championship within 3 years.
Yeah. Well, they've always done it and come good, haven't they?
They've always come good, and I think they'll be developing both car and engine very, very hard. And that's why I think we'll see Red Bull go forward as well, because even if Tag and Ilmore don't do the best job developing it, I think the core unit will just improve.
Yeah.
I mean, now I think about it, I'm very, very excited. I'm very, very excited. And there's only 2 teams on the grid that I think 100% will go backwards. And that's Williams and Sauber. The rest I only see going forward. And that makes it very, very, very interesting indeed. I think on moral grounds, I'd still like to see Haas at the bottom. I could see Vettel making a very valiant challenge for the Drivers' Championship. I agree with you, Mercedes has probably got the constructors in the bag.
Yeah.
Simply because even if Ferrari outdevelop them and come on song later on, Raikkonen's just not there mentally, and you need both cars to be scoring points to beat a team that's had both cars on the podium consistently for the first 10 rounds.
Yeah.
As for third, I agree with you that could go any way. It could be Williams, and I've seen they're the bookies' favourite, but I would be more inclined to say Red Bull or Force India, to be honest.
Yeah.
I could see Williams maybe clinging on for fourth, but third just seems like a big ask at the moment. And maybe I'm doing them a disservice, but it's like you say, at testing, they didn't seem to be doing a great deal. And a good argument I heard for that is, well, they've got limited parts and it's about spending your budget. So you set a test program based on how much you want to spend. And once the program's complete, then it's complete.
Yeah.
And they didn't have any reliability problems. So maybe they were just happy with what they learned.
Yeah.
And maybe, they're not responsible for a great deal of engine testing. So.
Yeah. And they were talking about, I suppose the things that confused me was they kept on talking about things like, well, the car is now going to have better performance in wet weather conditions. There was no rain testing, so how would you know? And
yes.
Things like that. And I just think, where are you pulling this from?
But then, I remember we had this conversation at the end of the Caterham Kings season where we noticed that they'd done the same thing at testing, and they'd spent like half the final test day just practicing pit stops.
Yeah.
And we said that looks either incompetent or very, very confident. And then they went on to have a very, very strong season generally. So maybe the same applies this time. And I am lapping way faster than Kimi Räikkönen. I've caught him up in no time at all. This is annoying.
I think this is called potential. Let's put a positive spin on as I yet again.
No, I've just overtaken Räikkönen with no hassle at all on primes. No hassle whatsoever. I've noticed in this game, and it's probably true in general, that if you have a serious problem or accident in the first sort of 6 laps, that's it. Your race is knackered. You can't close things down again.
Yeah.
However, it seems to be much easier to recover later in the race, which makes no sense to me.
I wonder if that's because they've turned down fuel and stuff like that.
Yeah, possibly. Possibly. That would make some sense to me. Because, yeah, Raikkonen is in my dust now. He's fallen off my mini-map. And he didn't seem to have any damage or anything. So, interesting. Because, I mean, I've never had the ability, at least, to do one of those heroic recovery drives from a bad qualifying to come out in a much stronger position. That's never been something that's happened to me.
Single player sometimes, yeah. Not necessarily anything else.
Someone did ask me why are we so bad after so many years, and I said, you've got to understand that actually it's very difficult to competently present, let's call it a web show, for want of a better term, about F1 opinion and accusing treasured TV icons of being paedophiles and innuendo while driving your best race.
Yeah, and I think we are one of the very, 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 very few people or shows that is not a cut of I'm going to be single someone out as someone who is held in such high esteem, but when I watch their stuff I find it completely empty and full of nothing. Tiamat Marduk?
Yes.
How he's getting hundreds of thousands of views when it is, hey guys, thanks for watching and subscribing. I really, really like this racing. It's I'm going to do a move on Alonso now, and you can tell that he's not actually talking and driving at the same time. It's heavily edited because a whole race is over in about 6 or 7 minutes. But that's bookended with, hey guys, really love F1 2015. Like, subscribe, comment, yeah. Love to read your comments, guys. And that's all that there is. And I just think, well, you're not actually sharing an opinion. You don't have anything constructive to say. And you're heavily editing all of the interesting stuff. And you've probably had a few goes at it. Whereas we get together whenever we can squeeze it into our time. We clearly are a lover of games and a lot of different racing games. And so absolutely you have to have some pre-practice to try and get some changing in. And I'd say that our web shows, it's what people come to enjoy. It's what gets the most views. People have good banter with us on Twitter and stuff like that afterwards. I'd take us being shit and having something decent to say over having polished driving and
I'm completely with you on that. And flame on, Tiamat. Bit of Twitter beef. No, I agree. His style is very reminiscent of people who play FIFA.
Okay.
I've never been a big fan of FIFA outright. It's more of a party game for me. But I did stumble on some FIFA videos when I was getting ready to do my Grand Prix World playthrough, and I watched people playing different management games and stuff like that to try and see what worked and what didn't. And in the end, just did it my own way anyway.
Good man.
I'm supposed to pit again. Why?
Have you not done options?
I have done options. I've done options and primes.
Oh.
I now have to pit for 6 laps, only 4 of which I have to drive. And I found it's very much like you described that, a lot of FIFA playthroughs that you don't see the full game. You see like the bits usually where the player looks good.
Yeah.
And then it's all like and subscribe. I don't recall us ever asking anyone to subscribe.
No.
They bring this on themselves.
Yeah.
And I don't think it can be overstated how difficult it is actually to think about what you want to say. I mean, I still watch us back frequently to make sure I haven't said something really stupid, because you're on autopilot for certain length of the track. Once you get to now lap 31,
yeah,
and it becomes a bit easier because you sort of know where you're going to finish, and as long as it's no high pressure points finish, which has very rarely been the case,
Yeah.
then you just
Or
sort of
rain's
go
coming.
around and you say your piece. But particularly, I find the hardest things are race starts and your flying quali laps.
Yes.
So yeah, there you go. That's our excuse, and we're sticking to it.
Damn right.
I don't know. I think it adds something to it as well that you're talking about what you're doing while you're doing it.
Yeah.
It's a bit more human, and maybe people disagree. Who knows? Who even knows? So,
We thank
last few
everyone that does
laps.
watch.
So, last few laps.
Let's
Give me
try.
your top 5 for the drivers and top 3 for the constructors, and we'll see in 12 months' time
Oh, God.
if we were right.
Pressure. Right. Let's be controversial. Rosberg, Hamilton, Vettel.
Yeah.
Bottas, Ricardo.
Good choices. Good choices.
And then constructors. Mercedes, Ferrari. Ooh. Right. My heart says Williams. My head says Red Bull. But I'll go with heart.
Right. Nice choices. I am going to go Hamilton. I know, boring. Vettel, Rosberg.
Yeah.
Bottas. And Perez. I could see Perez outperforming Hulkenberg this year. And I know I've just said that I could see Red Bull going third, and I genuinely can.
Yeah.
Part of me wonders if they've got on top of the severe brake problems they had last season, and they do have a lot of ground to cover. And depends how sour their relationship with Renault truly is.
Okay.
That I would probably say Mercedes, Ferrari, Williams. As much as I want to say Mercedes, Ferrari, Force India, or Ferrari, Mercedes, Force India.
Okay.
So yeah, I think they're reasonable. I think they're reasonable projections. And in the battle of the losers, Renault, Sauber, McLaren, Haas, and Manor. Who do you think's going to take the prize?
Of last.
No. Who do you think's going to be the? Well, actually, yeah. Who's the strongest? Who's the last?
Hang on, bear with me. I'm trying to not get a penalty for blue flags because I want to get past Mary. Ah, no! Barriers! Fuck a duck. Right. That's what happens. Oh, wow. I'm morally 18th. Right, so Battle of the Back. Where were you coming from, sorry? What were the teams?
Sauber, McLaren, Haas, Manor.
Okay.
Oh, Renault.
Right, I reckon Renault will be top of that by the end. Then McLaren. Then Haas. Oh. Haas, Sauber, Manor. I think the problem is that unless there's a lucky break, I think Manor will collect a point or two in a high attrition race, but that will be it.
I agree with you on some points there, but for me, it's going to be a lot closer between Renault and McLaren than we might first assume.
Okay.
I've got a feeling they have to have gained something worth gaining. I just can't see them being as tragically awful. At least, they're going to be finishing races more frequently.
Yeah.
But yeah, actually, I'm going to side with you. I think Renault are going to come out top of that pile of steaming dog droppings. And I don't know. I'm going to say by end of season, Sauber are last. I do think
Yeah.
during the season, Haas will get in front of Manor at some point. I hope I'm wrong, but I could see it.
I think the reason why I'm putting Sauber ahead of Manor by the end is I think Sauber will get points earlier in the season and then fall to last.
Yeah, again, they seem to have quite a reliable car out of the gate, don't they?
Yeah.
Which could work to their advantage.
Defo.
My best lap wasn't fantastic, but I was on primes for almost the entire race, so you can knock a second off, arguably.
I reckon you could. It's really annoying is that my best laps should have put me at the bottom end of the points. And when I was running normally, I was keeping up with Perez and Verstappen and co. So wasted opportunity that one.
Vettel was the mid-low 110s. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Well, another successful expedition into the barriers.
I'm pleased and delighted. Clearly, we both hate Nico Hulkenberg, is all I'm going to say with that.
He was far too aggressive with me at the start. I mean, I jumped on the opening lap. I jumped from 11th to 6th, I think, because you were 5th, I think.
Yeah. I think.
And then you were faster. I've got no problem admitting that because you were pulling away. But Hulkenberg and I were very, very similarly paced. He wasn't, really, really gaining on me. But for once, he outbraked me, which the AI very rarely outbrakes me because I'm a bit suicidal like that. And and he just went straight into the back of me, really. And then Sainz punted me round as well on a straight. Why not?
Yeah.
But the biggest hamper for me is that for something happens 2 or 3 times a race where my controller completely stops responding and the car goes in like ghost.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was like turning right at the time, that turn just continues. Or if I was braking, the braking just continues for about 2 to 3 seconds.
Wow.
And I have no control over the car. So either I end up in a barrier or I end up at a complete stop on the apex of the corner. So that did its damage as well. But all in all, not too bad. I'm more happy that it was a reasonably clean race for me. And I was quite happy with my qualifying.
Yeah, quali was good. We'll always have qualifying.
I want to take quali away from us.
No. Well.
So what's going on your channel this week?
Ooh, that is a good point. So this should go up. This will be up before the first race, obviously. So I have got this week off of work. Yay!
Cool.
So I'll be doing some other bits and bobs. I am just literally downloaded Automobilista, which came free for everyone that's bought any Stock Car Extreme games on Steam. And it seems to be completely modelling early 2000 F1 without a license, and it looks beautiful. And all I keep on seeing on my Facebook page for all the sim racing people is this game's so literal actual quote. Yeah. So I'm going to, once this has been uploaded, stick on some of that. That's pretty much me. How about you?
Excellent question. I'm going to be doing an episode of Grand Prix World later this afternoon because we finally had a breakthrough. Ooh. And we're making a concerted championship challenge for the first time in the playthrough. What? So I've been really pleased with that playthrough, let me tell you, because it's the only English language one on YouTube, and I had a very clear idea that it was going to be like a learn to play as we play. And I'm just glad that everything I've said has come true, so I don't look like a total dick. So that's coming good. I'm still going to have to sync with you on doing an out of our depth with the bomb disposal.
Yeah. I can't wait for that.
And I'm going to try and rush through my Galactic Civilizations 3 playthrough more than I would like to because I'm going to have to do some No Man's Sky when that's released. So I'm trying to blast my way through. So there'll be plenty of Galciv, plenty of Grand Prix World, and I think that should keep us out of trouble for the most part.
Defo. I'll add on to mine as well. Trackmania Turbo comes out on the 26th of March. I've already pre-ordered it. There'll be an awful lot of that on this channel because I love me some Trackmania. So
You're a track maniac.
yes. Who doesn't want to do loop the loops? Can manage it in an F1 car. I'm sure I can manage it on one of those as well. So, pleasure as always. Don't forget you can find Mr. Estebene at...
Call me Zero.
Boop, boop. We do love all of his stuff. So you guys will take care. Thank you so much for watching us for another impetuous barrier meet. And we're off to Silverstone next. We're coming home.
Oh, I'm rubbish at Silverstone, so that'll be worth watching just for that.
And on that bombshell, we'll see you all next episode. Bye for now.
Take care.
Excellent.